So in this video, we learn how to build a very basic Golang web server. The prerequisite to this video is that you should have Golang installed on your system. And you should have a very basic idea of how Golang works, like packages, structs, and interfaces. And you can watch a video on how to install Golang if you don't have it on your system. And it doesn't matter if it's Ubuntu, Mac, or Windows. The steps that I'll be covering in this video will be similar for all of them. So I'm on my Windows laptop and I've opened up my PowerShell, which is basically a terminal for Windows. And on Mac you'll have terminal, or on Ubuntu you'll have your Bash or your terminal again. So once you have installed Golang on your system, you'll have a folder called Go. So that's where you want to be. You want to be inside that folder called Go. And inside this folder, you want to be inside a directory called as src. Inside this src directory, we'll create a new directory called Go server. And we'll go inside this directory. This is where we'll create our code. So I'll open this in my code editor, which is VS Code. So now that I'm in my code editor, I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called static, where I'll keep my HTML or static files, and my main.go file where all my Golang code will reside. As you know, when we start writing any Golang code, we have to write package main in the beginning, and then we have to import some packages from package main. So one of the packages that I need is fmt, then I need the log package, then I need net/http package, which has most of the functions that I need to create a web server and the routes, right? And then, as you know, for every Golang code, we have to have func main, which is where most of the control of the operation lies, right? Now I'll switch over to my draw.io board and show you what exactly we're building. So I thought before we start building any of the functions, it's better to show you what we're building. So here's our server file, and here are the three routes that we'll be building today. One is the root route, which is just a slash. Then we have /hello, and then we have /form. When we hit the slash route or the root route, we'll just open up index.html file. And then we have /hello, which will just call a function, hello function. It'll just print hello to the screen. And then we have a /form route, which will have a form function associated with it, and then that will open up a form.html file for us, right? So we have to create index.html and form.html files right now, and then we have to write these routes inside our func main, and then we have to create these functions also inside our main.go file, right? So now that you have a 10,000 feet view of what we're doing, it'll just everything will make a lot more sense. So now let's switch back to our VS Code. Back in our VS Code, you have seen that we had worked till this point, till func main. Now it's time to create two files, index.html and form.html in our static folder. In index.html, we'll write some very basic code. We'll say HTML, and then we'll say head, and we'll say title. Here we'll say static website, and after the head we'll place a body tag. Inside the body tag we'll have an h2 tag, and we'll again say static website, and that's about it. In our form we'll have /doc type HTML. Then we have an HTML tag. We'll have a head tag. Inside the head tag, we'll say meta charset is equal to UTF-8 / right? So that's what our meta tag does. And then we have our body tag, which will have a div. It will have a form method is equal to post, right? So we want to post the form, and then we'll have /form, right? and then we have our label. I'm assuming that you already know HTML, so I'm not explaining a lot of things, right? But anyways, this is the name field that we want the user to input, right? So we'll have input name is equal to name, and then you have type is equal to text. And you can also skip this part if you don't really want to bother about HTML. And then you have label, then you have address, then you have your input name is equal to address, and type equal to text, and value nothing, right? And then you have your input type is equal to your submit button, and then value is equal to submit. So a submit button which will have submit written over it. All right, and this completes our form that we want the user to fill, right? And now we want to start wiring up our main logic, which is inside the func main. So inside func main, we'll have a file server, which is basically a function that we get inside the HTTP package that we just imported. So we'll say file server, where S is capital, so make sure you say that. And here you have a short form assignment operator, which basically declares and defines a variable, right? So with colon and is equal to, and then you have http dot directory dot static dot slash static, I meant. So we're telling Golang that we want you to check out the static directory, and now Golang automatically knows that it has to look at the index.html file, because as you know, PHP, Golang, Node.js, all of them look at the index.html file, right? That's what they're trained to do as servers. And now you have a handle function inside your HTTP package, right? And so I want to start handling my root route, which is just the slash route. So how do I handle it? I say send that to the file server function that I just created, which is just on top of this. And then you have your http dot handle func, which handle func is another function that we get inside the HTTP package. And now I want to handle my slash form route, and you have form handler, right? So we'll create the form handler function shortly. And then you have another handle func, where we'll handle our slash hello function, right? Slash hello route, which will call the hello handler function. So far so good. I've already shown you what slash hello and slash form are supposed to do. Slash form will show us the form, which is form.html. Just the slash will serve us the index.html file, which I've shown you how it will do that. And slash hello will just print out hello to the screen, and we'll have to create a function called hello handler for that. And now let's also print out what will be printed out when our server connects. So server started at port 8080, and right. So if you want to put new line, you have to use printf, which is inside the fmt package that we've just imported. Now let's handle our server. So we use the listen and serve function inside the HTTP package. So as you can see, HTTP package is very important, and this will create the server. So this is really the heart of the software that we're creating, right? So there can be the error can be there, or it could be nil. So one of these two values will be assigned to ERR, which is the error. So now let's handle the error. If it's not equal to nil, then we want to do something. So we want to log dot fatal error. And this is where we used our log package to handle or to log the error. So far so good with the main.go. Now we want to start creating our main functions. So first we'll create the hello handler and func hello handler. This usually has two things. So one is W and the other is R, right? So W is http.response writer. So as you know, with any API or any route, you'll have either a response and a request. So request is something that the user sends to the server, and response is what the server sends back to the user. So we'll keep that value in W, which is the response, and for the request that the user will send, which will be in http.request, this star is a pointer, so R is basically pointing to the request, right? So yeah, I'm assuming you have basic idea of how pointers work. Even if you don't, it's okay. I think you can just follow this video, right? So as soon as we wrote func hello handler, you can see the squiggly line below hello handler went away, because now it knows what to do when it encounters this route. So now let's start writing out our function. So URL R is, as you know, the request. So when the user sends a request, which will be in the form of, like, let's say /hello, right? So what you want to see is if user dot if the r.url dot path is not equal to hello. Now we're sending the request, which is /hello, to the hello handler, but let's say by mistake something comes here. So now we want to check if the path is not hello handler. Then we'll do something. We'll say http.error w/404 not found, and http.status not found. All right, and we'll just return from the function. And then if r.method not is equal to get. So we want only like when you type /hello in your browser, right, that by default is a get method, right? And we don't want people to post anything to /hello. We want people only to get, and in the sense just print out hello, right? That's why we are saying that if it's not get, then again you will return an error, http.error, which will be W again, and method is not supported. Then you have http.status not found. Now again, as status not found is again inside HTTP packet, so you can see how important that is. And then we'll again return from this function if this is the condition. But the ideal condition would be that we want to just print to the screen, which is f print f. So fmt, by the way, has a lot of these functions like printf, println, fprintf, right? You can check them out, and they're all for very different things. And so we'll say hello, and that's what our hello handler will do. Now there's a squiggly line below form handler, so that means we want to write a form handler function. So let's start doing that. So we'll say func form handler w http.response writer and r asterisk http://request. Now you're going to be using this very often, so just, I mean, it's the same syntax, so you can keep it copy pasted somewhere and then just keep copy pasting it. That's completely all right. And again, we'll have the same thing if error is equal to parse form. So we want to parse a form, right? We want people to submit something in their form.html file, and it'll be a post request, and then that will parse the form. Error not equal to nil. Basically, if there is error, then we want to say print fmt dot f printf w/parse form 3 comma error. Okay, then we'll return. So this is just basically printing out the error, and here we'll say printf w comma post request successful, which is the ideal scenario, which is where we want to be. And we'll say name is equal to, so whatever we'll fill in the form, right? You remember the form. So whatever we'll fill in the form, we want the values to be taken into these variables. So r dot form value name. So we want name from the form to come to name, and then we want address to be equal to r dot form value address, and we'll say fmt dot f printf w comma name is equal to %s new line comma name, and then we'll say fmt dot f printf is basically printing it on the screen. Printf w comma, so whatever the user has written, so we're just going to basically print it out here. Now you must have seen that there was a squiggly line below and a name, and then once we used name out here, the squiggly line went away, because Golang tries to tell you that you've defined this variable but you're not using it. So that's an error in Golang, and this doesn't happen with JavaScript, and you can have like millions of variables that you never end up using, and that's a problem, right? So that's a nice thing about Golang, that it catches all of that. And then we'll say address. So now the squiggly line below address is also gone away. Now this completes our function. So let's head over to the PowerShell and check it out if it works. So back inside our terminal or PowerShell, we're still inside that folder go-server where we've written all our code. And now we're going to run a command called go build, which will create a binary executable file. It'll be a .exe file because I'm in Windows. And now I can run main.go. So we have given our main file the name main.go, but you could have named it anything else. But main.go is the usual accepted standard, right? So that's why we named it main.go. Now we're going to run that code, and it's going to say starting server at port 8080 because that's what we had written, if you remember, in our func main. It's showing me a pop-up which is asking me for my permission for my firewall, so I'm going to allow access. You might not see that in your in the screen recording software probably. Now we'll have to head over to our browser to see what's happening out there. So let's go to our browser, and here we'll open a new tab. We'll say localhost 8080. Now you remember we have three routes. We are handling three different routes, right? So one is the root route, which is this, just the slash. Then we have /hello, and then we have /form.html, right? So we have those three routes that we're handling. So slash we are handling using file server, and then we are handling hello using hello func handler, the function hello handler function, and then we are handling /form using the form handler function, right? So in the diagram, if you see this, right, /hello/form, and then with slash we want to open up the index.html file where we just written static server, and that will be printed to the screen. And then we have /hello where we just want to print out hello to the screen, and then we have a /form where we'll open up a form.html file, and then we'll have we'll fill up the form, and then it'll post to the server and it'll print out something to the screen again, right? So let's start off by checking out the slash route and see what happens. It says static website, right, which is exactly what is written inside the index.html file. And if we say /hello, the hello handler function will be called, and you'll just print out hello to the screen. And then if we have form.html, I'll just enter my details here and submit. So remember, it'll say post request successful because that's what we had written in our code, right, inside the form highlight function. And after you submitted those details, it's just going to print out those details to the screen. That's all it does. So fprintf name and fprintf address, if you remember writing that, right? So it's just printing out those values to the screen. That's what our simple web server in Golang does. And I'm going to step this up a notch in the upcoming videos, and I'll create more complicated videos where we'll have multiple files and we'll have routes and controllers and models, and we'll work with databases, we'll work with SQL, we'll work with SQLite, we'll work with MongoDB, we'll work with Cassandra, we'll work with Firebase, right? And we'll also work with GraphQL, and we won't just be creating REST APIs, right? And I'll also make a video where we have a React front end, and then we'll also have authentication, and then we'll work with Gorilla, which is a much faster library to create all these APIs and routes. And then we'll also work with GoFiber, which is probably the fastest API layer. There's an article on the internet where somebody compares Fiber with Express.js, and Fiber is, I think, 10 times faster. So we'll look at all of those things, and I'm just getting started. And also we look at microservices in Golang as well. So this is just the beginning of our work with Golang. And if you like this video, do subscribe to this channel, because I'll keep coming up with new content almost every day probably. And thanks a lot for watching. And do share this with your friends if you found it helpful.